I have rooted for Will Smith my whole life. I root for this motherfucker, okay? And now I watch Emancipation just to see him get whooped.
Chris Rock took aim at Will Smith during his Netflix comedy special on Saturday, 1 year after the actor slapped him at the Oscars. Now a source tells ET, Will is embarrassed and hurt by what the comedian said about him and his family. During the special, Chris referenced the cheating rumors that surrounded Will and his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, in 2020.
And his wife was f***ing her son's friend, okay? Now, I normally would not talk about this shit, but for some reason, these put that shit on the internet.
I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship. Absolutely.
She hurt him way more than he hurt me, okay? And who's he hit? Me.
The special marks the first time Chris has spoken publicly about the Oscars slap.
And people like, did it hurt? It still hurts. I got summertime ringing in my ears.
I was just glad to see, after what happened and all the trauma and stuff, that he emerged stronger.
I'm glad he's getting a chance to be seen and appreciated.
As for Will, he addressed the incident the day after the Oscars on Instagram, offering an apology to Chris. A few months later, after the Oscar winner was banned from attending any Academy events or programs for a decade, he said sorry again in an emotional video shared to YouTube.
There is no part of me that thinks that was the right way to behave in that moment.
Now, ET's source says Will hasn't watched the special, but people have told him what Chris said, and Will would like for him to let it go. The source adds that Will has worked on himself and wants Chris to move on so that he and everyone else can too. ET's source says Will is also upset that Netflix gave Chris a platform and thinks it's distasteful. And while Will may not have been into it, Chris's friends are behind him 100%.
No matter what goes down, we support each other. I support freedom of speech. Obviously, there's no place for violent behavior based on differences in opinion.
A source previously told ET, Chris said everything he wanted to say.
Welcome to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Lex. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. I appreciate you supporting the brand. You know what I'm trying to do with this. I'm at about 27 subs right now. I'd like to get to 100, then 500, then 1,000, 2,000. You know how this goes. So I really and truly appreciate you helping me to build this brand out. Welcome to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. I am your host, Jay Lex. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. You know what I am trying to do. Whether you like me, whether you love me, whether you hate me, whether you're indifferent, subscribe, share, comment, content. Welcome to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate everybody who tunes in, people who like me, love me, hate me, whatever. Thank you for tuning in. What are we going to talk about today? I generally don't start the show out this way. Usually I come with a little more something a little more serious that's going on, or usually politics, things along those lines. But this one is a hot topic, and so I'm just going to get into it early. And then we can go from there to other subjects. Obviously, the Oscars just passed this week. I hope, even before I go back, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope you had a good time. I hope you stayed warm. Over the weekend, the Oscars, I think it's the 95th one, aired. There's a lot of controversy with that. I'll get into that in a little bit. But obviously, last year's Oscar, with the slap heard around the world from Will Smith to Chris Rock, Very sad day for me personally because Will Smith's my favorite actor all time, bar none. Denzel's cool, everybody else is cool, all these other guys, Tom Cruise, whomever. Will Smith was my favorite actor all time. And to see him deteriorate, to see him have such a moment was truly sad for me. I don't generally get too emotional about too much. I try to keep emotion out of it, but there's always an exception to the rule. This was very sad to see this man who had built himself up for 30 some odd years in the film industry. I've heard weird things about him, but just from a career standpoint, basically go out the way that he did for some woman who has no respect for him, to me, was truly a sad turn of events. So obviously, as we know, Chris Rock has a Netflix special out, and he basically addresses it. So I'm going to play his response to everything, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. Because there's some people out here who are mad at Chris Rock for essentially being smart about the situation. So let me play this, and then we'll come back to it, and I'll respond to some of those fools.
I don't need that smoke. I'm like The Rock. I do not need the smoke. Y'all know what happened to me. Getting smacked by Suge Smith. Everybody knows. Everybody fucking knows. Yes, it happened. I got smacked like a year ago. Fucking last week, I got smacked at the fucking Oscars by this motherfucker. And people like, did it hurt? It still hurts. I got Summertime ringing in my ear. Fucking drums, please. But I'm not a victim, baby. You will never see me on Oprah or Gail crying. You will never see it. Never gonna happen. I couldn't believe it, and I love Men in Black. No. It's never gonna happen. No. Fuck that shit. I took that hit like Pacquiao, motherfucker. I took it like motherfucking Pacquiao, okay? Shit, man. Did it hurt? Yeah, motherfucker, it hurt. And people are, well, you guys are fighting all the time. We're not fighting. First of all, I know you can't tell on camera. Will Smith is significantly bigger than me. We are not the same size, okay? We are not. This guy, Will Smith does movies with his shirt off. You've never seen me do a movie with my shirt off. If I'm in a movie getting open heart surgery, I got on a sweater. Will Smith played Muhammad Ali in a movie. You think I auditioned for that part? He played Muhammad Ali. I played Pookie in New Jack City. Pookie, motherfucker. I played a piece of corn in Pootie Tang. Shit, even in animation, this motherfucker's bigger. I'm a zebra, he's a shark. What the fuck, man? But Will Smith practices selective outrage. Practices selective outrage. Because everybody knows what the fuck happened. Everybody that really knows I had nothing to do with that shit. I didn't have any entanglements. I did not have any entanglement. And then for people that don't know, and everybody knows, Will Smith and his wife was fucking her son's friend, okay? Now, I normally would not talk about this shit. But for some reason, these niggas put that shit on the internet. I have no idea why two talented people would do something that fucking low down. What the fuck? We all been cheated on. Everybody in here have been cheated on. None of us have ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television. None of us. They're like, hey, I was sucking somebody else's dick. How did that make you feel? Why the fuck would you do that shit? She hurt him way more than he hurt me, okay? Okay? And by the way, he does that shit. Everybody in the world called him a bitch. I tried to call the motherfucker and give him my condolences. He didn't pick up for me. Everybody called that man a bitch. Fucking Charlemagne called him a bitch, and the Breakfast Club called him a bitch, and The View, and The Talk, and every rapper, and fucking the Drink Champs called him a fucking bitch. Everybody called him a bitch. They called his wife a predator. Everybody called him a bitch. Everybody. And who's he hit? Me. A nigga he know he could beat. That is some bitch ass shit. That's what the fuck happened, okay? The fuck out of here, man. The fuck? What the fuck? I do nothing to this motherfucker, okay? His whatever. Years ago, his wife said I should quit the Oscars. I shouldn't host because her man didn't get nominated for Emancipation. The biggest piece of shit ever. Okay? And then so the nigga gives me a fucking concussion. No, not Emancipation. I fucked up the joke. Concussion. She fucking said he should quit because Will didn't get nominated for concussion. What the fuck? What the fuck? So did I do some jokes about it? Who gives a fuck? That's how it is. She starts it, I finish it, okay? That's what the fuck happened. Nobody's picking on this bitch. She started this shit. Nobody's picking on her. Nobody was picking on her. She said, a fucking grown-ass man should quit his job because her husband didn't get nominated for concussion. And then this nigga gives me a fucking concussion, okay? What the fuck, man? I love Will Smith. My whole life I loved this nigga. I saw him open up a Run DMC at the Nassau Coliseum. These niggas make brand new funk. I love this nigga. He's made some great movies. I have rooted for Will Smith my whole life. I root for this motherfucker, okay? And now I watch Emancipation just to see him get whooped. Got me rooting for Massa, okay? Hit him again, Massa! Hit him again! You missed the spot, Massa! You missed the spot! And a lot of people go, Chris, how come you didn't do nothing back? How come you didn't do nothing back that night? Because I got parents. That's why. Because I was raised. Okay? I got parents. And you know what my parents taught me? Don't fight in front of white people.
So there it is, the ending of the show he put on. That answers that right there. The ending right there answers everything. I see a lot of people out here calling him a bitch, talking about Chris Rock, not Will Smith. Oh, he's a bitch. Oh, why didn't you do anything that night? And he told you. Okay? Now, I'll get a little more technical as it pertains to the law. Even if Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, now it's Hollywood, the LAPD probably would have just said, go home and cool off or whatever. But in the normal world, even if somebody hits you or attacks you first and you go and attack them back, you can be liable or be arrested for a crime in this country. That's how it works. It's not eye for an eye the way that it should be. This ain't the streets. And we all know what happens in the streets. Eventually, somebody gets arrested and they go to jail. And they become a statistic. That's how this works. Okay, I'll give you the perfect example. And I learned this a few years back. If somebody in New York, or for instance, somebody breaks into your house, okay, and you shoot them, and they're not inside the house, let's say you shoot them on your lawn. You're not even renting. You bought the house. You own the grass. Well, you know, you still pay to the bank, but you own the grass. They're still in your yard, not across the street, not down the road. They're still in the vicinity of your home. You shoot them. They can turn around and sue you. Yeah. Even though they broke into your house, put you and or your family in danger, you can still be liable. And it probably works like that in a lot of other states. A lot of you talking like this, like you can just do street justice. It doesn't work like that in the real world. It doesn't work like that in the most hood of hood places. They're waiting for you to do it so that they can charge you both. So that the public defenders and lawyers and everything like that can make their money. Chris Rock ain't stupid. Why would Chris Rock? Now, you can say, oh, he should have gone after him in the back. That's a different story. You don't publicly go out there and attack Will Smith on the Oscars. Personally, me speaking, I would have waited till given who I am, I probably would have tried to break his neck on national TV. But what did Chris Rock come to realize? I can't beat him. So he waits a year and he monetizes it. That's called being smart. That's called being smart. Some people say, oh, you should have handled it then. No. Maybe handle it in the back where there's no cameras and things along those lines. All right. No. What you do, in particular when you're in Chris Rock's position, because people wanted to hear from him, so he waited. Got onto the Netflix platform, one of the biggest in the world, and monetized it. That's how you do it. For those of you out here saying, oh, he's a bitch, he ain't a man, blah, blah, blah. Y'all are not being smart. Or you're in your emotions, like I was when I first saw this slap. Not in my emotions anymore. Will Smith is a true bitch in this situation. Yeah. Why is he a bitch? Because he slapped a man who did nothing to him. What, he cracked a joke because his wife got mad that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for a concussion? Who gives a fuck? He cracked a joke. I heard some of y'all that night that it happened because he did the G.I. Jane joke. I remember the whole joke, but did the G.I. Jane joke. Well, if that was my life, I would have done the same thing. Are y'all crazy? You can say it wasn't a funny joke, that's fine. To slap a man on national television? And then I'm hearing from quote-unquote sources that Will Smith wants him to move on. Why in the fruck should Chris Rock move on? Chris Rock should talk about this whenever he gets a chance to. Maybe 20 years from now, people won't care. But you know what? It's still a hot topic, and you did it. How dare you ask that man to move on when you committed a crime and got away with it? Your punk ass should be in prison right now or having to do community service or some shit like that. And you assaulted that man, and now he should move on. And supposedly he's gonna try, or I'm hearing about some kind of a lawsuit. Are you kidding me? You're lucky that man didn't hire a contract killer to come for your neck. You and your wife's neck. Chris Rock did exactly what he was supposed to do. He chilled, he waited, put cracked a joke, put it up on Netflix, and now it will be there forever. He should be able to talk about this forever. He shouldn't have to move on. He should make an example of you. You earned it. You sat there and took your frustrations out on a man and then clearly I'm not here for you. I'm not here to say that you should be assaulting your wife. Clearly that's not the case. But why on God's green earth did you go onto that woman's platform on Facebook and talk about out loud how you were banging your son's best friend or friend? Sitting there fighting back tears for a woman who clearly has -0 respect for you. If she wants to go on there and talk about it, you don't sit there and help her out. What kind of fuck shit is this? You made your bed, Jada. You sleep in your bed, Jada. I'm not helping you. Whether or not you guys had an open relationship, whether or not you knew and she said, yo, are you cool with it? Or he said you were cool with it, fine, whatever. I'm not going onto Red Table Talk to talk about that nonsense. You did that. You were sitting there slurping and swallowing that young man, knowing he had mental health issues. That's according to the story. Where are the women out here to talk about her predatory raise? See, if this was in reverse, y'all would be screaming from the high hills. All the feminists. Y'all quiet? Huh? Y'all were quiet, I should say. Y'all sit there get mad every single day when an older gentleman dates a younger woman because you want him to deal with your old bitter ass. I didn't hear y'all then. Y'all were real quiet when Jada was doing her thing. Or when you heard the story, I should say. Will Smith needed to man up. Let that woman drown in the decision that she made. The fact that you're still married still boggles my mind. But okay, fine, whatever. You know, some people don't believe in divorce. I don't want to hear, oh, you know, my father was abusive to my mother and all this other stuff. That doesn't mean you take abuse. You know, look, I am all for mental health checks and I am all for doing these things. But at some point, it just becomes an excuse. If you need mental health help, go and get it. You've got millions of dollars. You've got an unlimited checkbook. I imagine there are plenty of psychologists and psychiatrists out in the California area that you can go to who do house calls. We have to stop making excuses about mental health, this, that, and the other thing. I'm not saying it's not a real thing. It is. But we also have to have emotional intelligence. I can see if I can find that quote. I had it here. I don't know if I still have it on my notes here or not. I can't find it. But anyway, at some point, you have to be intelligent. You're a 50-plus-year-old man. Why are you sitting here taking... Here it is. I think I talked about this in the previous episode, but here. Y'all are grown-ass adults now. You're responsible for your emotional intelligence at this point. It's no longer about who hurt you or who made you this way. It's about what you can do to fix your problem. Playing the blame game will leave you ugly and stagnant. Sorry, not sorry. That's right there is one of the greatest explanations I ever heard. Yes, shit happens to you in life. We've been cheated on. Some of us have been abused. If you need that help, go and get it. There are plenty of people out here going through therapy. It's not a bad thing. But don't sit there and say, well, my past is the reason that this happens. Okay, guess what? At some point, I'm not saying you have to get over it, but at some point you have to confront it and move on. How dare Will Smith take his frustrations out on a comedian? And some of y'all co-signing it. But you're the same people who say we shouldn't be abusive towards one another. Which one is it? You can't have it both ways. Pick a side. Stop flip-flopping. Will Smith was dead wrong in what he did. And Chris Rock had every right to sit there and monetize it. Why not? You wasn't the one up there getting slapped by a grown man, mad at his wife, but he can't do anything to her physically, so he takes that on somebody else. That's bitch shit. The hypocrisy of some of y'all is unbelievable. Shame on anybody who sits there and said and defended Will Smith, and that's including people I know. You're frustrated about something. Find a way to deal with it. Don't assault another man because you're mad at your wife, or because your wife has a problem with this person. They just don't deal with the person. That's all. But some of y'all sitting there defending Will Smith's actions a year later. Knowing good and doggone well, if you were in the same position, you probably would hire a hitter. Props to Chris Rock for finding a way to turn the situation around in his favor. All right. In other news, we know what's going on with the Biden administration things related to Ukraine, and now I'm hearing things about China. I'm going to play a clip for you. This is from Fox Business, so take with it what you want. I know some people are going to say, oh, it's Fox, they don't care. Let's just go with it, and let's hear what they have to say, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Here now, former Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Matt, good to see you. So what does this mean, this development, for the investigation into Joe Biden potentially making money as the vice president through his son, Hunter?
Yeah, it's good to be with you and Dag and Sean. I think this is a big development, but to the point of the reporter, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now that the House Oversight Committee has subpoena powers and they can request all of the bank records and not just some of the publicly available things or things that are coming off the laptop, this investigation could open up in a wide manner, and not just this energy deal that Mr. Biden was doing, but other transactions of where the money was going. We've already learned, this new transfer to Haley, and so I can imagine that there are other transfers to other people, including possibly President Joe Biden.
What are next steps? Given the job that you've had in the past, Matt, what are next steps for Chairman Comer?
Yeah, well, Chairman Comer, I think, is tasked with getting to the truth and explaining to the American people, what happened, who did it, and ultimately it's up to the Department of Justice and the Delaware U.S. Attorney, who's already been investigating all these issues, to decide if laws have been violated. But I think obviously sunlight is very important because Congress has an important oversight, especially into the Biden family as Joe Biden is president. But I think they also have an important rulemaking role, that if these types of transactions where leaders in our country are under the corrupt influence of the Chinese Communist Party, I think we not only do we need to know that, but we should prevent that so that our country isn't compromised.
Matt, obviously the Congress has a role for oversight, but it's a legislative body. It's not easy to investigate Joe Biden in what deals he made with his son Hunter. This is really a role for the Department of Justice. Do you think at one point the DOJ is actually going to get involved and investigate so we can go, yeah, Joe Biden's compromised, he made money, or listen, no, he didn't. We looked at him, he made no money. Hunter made the cash, but Joe didn't make anything. It'd be helpful if they actually engaged in this case.
It would be. I don't think we'll ever, Sean, to your point, though, get the resolution. I don't think the Department of Justice is ever going to come out and give us a conclusion as to what and why Joe Biden is cleared. But, that's why a special counsel in this case, and I've been calling for it ever since the laptop was discovered and turned over, that a special counsel could issue that report as required by DOJ regulations to issue a report, and I think that would be an important piece, but that's why Merrick Garland has resisted that.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, so this tax investigation of Hunter Biden is said it's being run out of Delaware, and the U.S. Attorney there, David Weiss, but it's also being coordinated with the Tax Division of Justice, which is in Washington, which allows, again, Merrick Garland and to be influenced by the White House.
No, that's a great point, Dagan. And I think the last time Merrick Garland was in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he essentially said that there are still ways to control the investigation. I mean, he didn't say it that way, but there are checks that the Department of Justice in Washington has to make, especially as it relates to public integrity, to tax cases, and the like. And so, yeah, there's no doubt that Merrick Garland, one of the main reasons he has not appointed a special counsel is so that the Department of Justice in Washington could maintain that control over the investigation and the U.S. attorney in this case.
First off, if you think for 2 seconds that Hunter Biden or Joe Biden didn't make any money off of his son's dealings as it pertains to Ukraine, as an example, or in this case, I guess China, you clearly are living under a rock. Because Joe Biden said this many moons ago in a speech. I don't remember specifically where the speech was, but he basically insinuated, look, I'm the reason that they either got rid of somebody or I told them that this person had to go or else. We have to stop. I understand people do certain things to, mitigate I guess mitigate's the right word, to mitigate the chance of a lawsuit or something along those lines, or getting the government up their ass. I get it. But what's the old saying? If it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it isn't a goddamn horse. We know of the corruption that is happening right in front of our faces. And we have to sit here and pretend as if it doesn't exist. Put aside impeached. Why isn't Joe Biden being brought in front of Congress? All I see these days now, whenever I see something on like C-SPAN or I rarely watch like mainstream news, but whenever I like see a glimpse of something on YouTube or something like that, why are we constantly getting Twitter and all these other kind of non-essential, non-important people when you have a president of the United States and his administration previous to becoming president of the United States pulling all kinds of illegal acts? If this is you or me, we are going under the jail. There's very little investigation, and you're basically looking for a plea deal. This is one of the problems that I have with how the government runs. There should be no immunity for a public servant, within reason. Okay, when Agent Orange was in the White House, there was an investigation every other week, if not every week, as there should be if you think he did something legal. Ultimately, it was found that he wasn't involved in Russiagate or any of those things along those lines. I know right now he's under investigation, or the U.S. District Attorney is trying to arrest him. He put out some speech last week, basically like putting them on Front Street, hey, they're coming to arrest me for the Stormy Daniels thing. I get all of that. It's political. As stupid as it is, they really should be trying to go after real things. They should be going after real crimes, even though they're the ones who help to fund the crimes and then pretend like they're going to fix it. You all know how that works anyway. But at what point does Joe Biden or somebody within his administration have to sit in front of a Congress, as silly as they are, and answer some real questions? If this were Donald Trump, we'd be calling for to put his head under a guillotine, figuratively speaking. Rightfully so. At what point does it stop, though? Do we stop with all the, Joe Biden did this and that? If you know he was doing illegal, if he was using his power and influence to illegally do business in Ukraine and benefit himself and his family, and you have the evidence, this laptop that I've heard about for 2 years, don't you at some point have to get the laptop out there and get things popping? People in the government wonder why the average everyday person doesn't trust them. People in the government wonder why, the average everyday person has no intent or has no desire to go out and vote or to be involved politically because of BS like this. For weeks, we're hearing about Hunter Biden's laptop, his business dealings in China and everything. People, I don't care what industry it is, if you have a parent who has some type of influence or power, and you're a kid and you're interested in those using some of that power, there's not a person alive, not a parent alive who wouldn't help their child. Not a one. Legal or illegal. What do we talk about all the time? Legacy. If you have a certain amount of power, as long as your kid is not a F up, what do? You make sure you put them in the best position to keep things going in terms of your family name. That's what inheritance is all about. That's what all these things are all about, when you leave stuff for your children. But if you're still here and you have influence and power, of course you're going to help your child in whatever business dealings that they are. And now you have a corrupt career politician who told you what he was doing in Ukraine, and we all act as if that footage is not out there on YouTube, or you can't Google it, or you can't do the Google. Where are the Republicans? Quote unquote. Where y'all at? Why aren't you putting more and more pressure upon this man and his family if they committed a crime? We know they committed a crime, but I'll just say if for now. If you have all this evidence, laptop, documents, things along those lines, what in the fuck is taking so long? If this was some kind of a drug dealer on the street, you'd have him in prison, him or her in prison by now. Flipping for the state. Why isn't Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, I forget his wife's name, Jill, I believe his name, whomever it is, if you think they're involved in something, why aren't they being brought in for questioning? Why are you wasting our time? Why are you wasting your time on mainstream airwaves talking about this investigation? No. Get them in front of somebody, okay? In front of somebody, and let's see if they perjure themselves. Even though perjury, depending upon the person, doesn't mean anything. We've seen Dr. Anthony Fauci, who I'll get into in a minute, perjure himself repeatedly. And the man still hasn't seen the inside of a prison cell yet. Not local, county, state, federal, nothing. That man should be in an orange jumpsuit. But nevertheless, even though there are rules and laws that you're supposed to abide by, they don't apply to everybody. This is why I don't really like talking politics too much. Because we all see what's going on in real time. And some of y'all, never mind who you voted for, whatever the case might be, some of y'all see the BS going on and you still give them a pass. Oh, come on. What are we doing? What are we doing? Some of you give that man a pass that you wouldn't give to your own family. But you'll sit there and let that man, because he hired a few black women, a few black women to his administration, all of a sudden y'all gave him a free pass. The nerve of some of y'all. The nerve of some of y'all. For real, for real. Speaking of one Anthony Fauci, I saw a video that came up. This was a couple years ago, I guess at the height of the pandemic. He is in D.C., and he's talking to a few people, or he's talking to some of the workers, like the essential workers that they turn their backs on later who didn't get vaccinated. But this is a video that came out, and some of it's going to be people who talk about getting vaccinated, why they got vaccinated. But there's going to be one gentleman in particular who's going to come out and who's going to talk about his feelings on it. I'm going to play the video, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
We're talking about vaccine.
Yeah,
I know. Coming on. Yeah, Dr. Fauci really wants you to get vaccinated today. If you're not vaccinated. All right.
I've been Fauci.
Good. You got your Fauci ouchie?
Yeah. I'm vaccinated.
Well, good for you. Hello. Hi. It's nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
I've been vaccinated since April the 23rd. And I did it because I felt I needed to be a solution and not part of it.
There you go. Great. Do you think it hurts or what is it?
No, it does other things to me. I just pass out.
How old are you? I'm older than you, so don't feel badly. Don't feel bad. I'm 80.
Me too.
Oh, good.
Me too. I'm 82.
That's one of the reasons why you might want to reconsider.
What I find is people aren't really opposed.
Yeah, I know.
They do need a
They need a little push.
A push and a drag.
Yeah.
Hi, neighbor. I don't come in there. I got no clothes on. That's okay. This is Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, if I had some clothes on, I'd come out and give you a kiss. I can't do it now. I ain't got the clothes on.
All right. Well, I give it back to you.
All right. And we're going to come back and talk to her son.
What are we going to do about those other states?
Oh, my God. They're going to keep the outbreak smoldering in the country. It's so crazy. I mean, they're not doing it because they say they don't want to do it. They're Republicans. They don't like to be told what to do.
Right.
And we got to break that, unpack that.
How you guys doing with vaccine?
I haven't gotten it yet. I'm waiting for them to be able to. Oh, you should get it first. Okay, that way you won't give it to them.
Oh, I thought I would give it to them if I get it.
No, not at all. In fact, we got to get you vaccinated so that if you were to get infected, you could pass it on to them. So you're actually protecting your family by getting it vaccinated.
Well, I heard that it doesn't cure it and it doesn't stop you from getting it.
No.
So
on the very, very, very rare chance that you do get it, even if you're vaccinated, you don't even feel sick. It's like you don't even know you got infected. It's very, very good at protecting you.
Just the Anacostia, so get up there. Okay.
All right, see you later.
Thank you. Have a good day.
The people in America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot or a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time. It takes years to create vaccination.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to.
You know how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be able to do it.
20 years is not enough. And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now, as close as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like the common flu then, right?
And not like
it's much more serious than the flu.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people annually, too.
You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous year, about 20 to 30,000. You know how many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States? 600,000 Americans.
Well, the number that you all given that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
You gonna pass?
Yeah, definitely. Because when you start talking about paying people to get vaccinated, when you start talking about incentivizing things to get people vaccinated, there's something else going on with that. Something else going on.
It is something going on.
There's something else.
You're right. But I'm glad millions of people like me and most everybody here didn't get an. You know what their incentive was? Protecting their health and protecting the city. But that's I won't keep you anymore.
It's okay, because my incentive, y'all campaign is about fear. It's about inciting fear in people. You all attack people with fear. That's what this pandemic is. It's a fear. It's fear, this pandemic. That's all it is.
Woo! Wow. I don't know the guy's, I didn't get the guy's name. I wish I knew his name, so I'll give him a shout out. But the last guy literally nailed it on the head. Now, I think this video is from like 2 years ago. It just recently aired. I'm actually surprised. This is from PBS. Yes, PBS. American Masters PBS, whatever that is. Very interesting. Huh. It's amazing, isn't it? How 2 years later, because as I said before, this was from 2021, how 2 years later, we're essentially, well, even 3 years, we can even go back to the height of it, 3 years removed from the pandemic, people finally opening their eyes and seeing what's really going on. Some people will never. Some people will forever rock with Fauci. You're some of those people. They were so excited to meet him. He's a celebrity, blah, blah, blah. You had the other woman in there who I believe, I wish I knew her name. I think they were saying she's the mayor. I don't know who the mayor of DC is, but nevertheless, it's great to see some people actually thinking for themselves and not believing the hype in the media. Now, I'm not saying you should or should not get the poke. That's your business. That's between you and your family. But once again, they took something that was a medical issue that they created allegedly in a lab in Wuhan. Allegedly. Who knows? But this thing was out there. People made it seem like it was the end of the world. I don't know if I ever told this on the show before, but I know somebody who works in a hospital. Remember when they said, oh my gosh, the hospital beds, they're full to capacity and blah, blah, blah. I had heard of hospitals in New York City closing whole floors down and then packing people into specific floors because they were saying they weren't allowing people into the other parts of the building, of the hospital, I should say. They were saying it's packed end to end when it was hype. I knew people who worked in these hospitals who said, nah, they closed certain floors and then they pack people in because it looks good. It's part of the narrative, the whole bit. I know people in media, so there's a narrative that has to be built in order to justify the BS that was going on. Not saying that COVID ain't real. Not saying that you shouldn't get the shot. I'm saying they took a medical issue and made it political. And a lot of people made money. A lot of people. Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. Talked about it in one of the previous episodes. They were selling cancerous talc, cancerous baby powder to the consumer. And then they got a contract to make the COVID vaccine, or a variation of the COVID vaccine. This was nonsense. And I'm glad that last gentleman, and by the way, if you watch the video, and I don't know if that's just one of the things that they were showing, because they were doing the same thing when, for people who live in the New York tri-state area, they would have commercials come on periodically, the importance of getting your COVID shot, the importance of getting your COVID shot because it's important to stop the spread and blah, blah, blah. And they were all black and brown people. I don't remember seeing not one Caucasian person. So if you watch this video, which is on, I guess, the PBS YouTube channel, American Masters PBS to be exact, and you go and you watch the video, they're all in black neighborhoods. What does that tell you? Are there only black people in Washington, D.C.? Is this what we're doing? Now we're pulling the Bill Gates using Africans. That's not alleged, that's a fact. You can look it up. Now that was 2 years ago. Fauci is still out here spewing that nonsense. Once again, you do what's best for you and yours. But you got a lot of people who got that goddamn vaccine who are out here having heart inflammation or myocarditis, as the technical, the medical term for it, is up crazy percentage in young people. After getting the shot, after getting boosters, etc. And oh no, I've mentioned before, you can't sue. They've got immunity, legal immunity. You can't sue the pharmaceutical companies, aka the legal drug cartels. You're not allowed to sue them, or you can't sue them under the law. And you wonder why it is that goddamn people don't trust the government. When people like myself were talking about, hey, you can get the shot, but that's not going to protect you when you should be living a healthy lifestyle. People like Fauci were the ones out there saying supplements don't work. Now, not all supplements are made the same, clearly. And you should do your research. But I didn't hear, when I heard him say things like that. When I know as a trained fitness professional that the two things you can do is eat a healthy lifestyle. I'm not saying you can't have fun, but majority of the food that you eat is healthy. Stay away from processed foods. There's a few things, obviously. Healthy foods, stay away from processed foods, exercise regularly. Whatever that exercise might be, yoga, weight training, running, whatever the case it is. I mean, preferably you do those all together to some capacity. But at what point do we stop? We have a female, an obesity expert out here telling you that obesity is not behavioral, but it's genetic. Have you ever seen a fat, long-distance runner before? Have you? You've got medical professionals out here lying to the public on national television. Nobody gets their credentials stripped, but heaven forbid, I know in the state of California, they tried to propose a bill that if you said anything negative about the COVID shot, you could lose your medical license. I don't remember if the bill actually went through or not, but this is the backwards BS that I'm talking about. You can have medical professionals out here lying and pushing a drug that's giving people other health issues. At least when we see the commercials for the different drugs that they peddle on mainstream TV, at least they tell you, you know what, if you're depressed and you take this can make your depression worse. At least they give you the disclaimer. How many people over the decades went to jail for not just selling weed, but smoking it? A natural herb. Now, I know the stuff in the street has a lot of carcinogens and things along those lines. People have lost their jobs. How many people, and let's put aside the average everyday person, how many essential workers at the height of the pandemic, New York City had the rule, lost their jobs? Firefighters, nurses, etc. Essential, as they called them, a year later out of a job because they didn't want to take a drug that they didn't know all the side effects of, because they made it seem like it was this miracle drug. And there were little to no side effects. Now we're realizing that there were a shitload of side effects. I have friends who I'm honestly worried about in the near future who might run into a medical issue. And they're all around my age. I'm 42 years old. They're either younger or a little bit older. Relatively good shape. Try to take care of themselves, have fun. I'm honestly worried for them. That I'm going to call one day, oh yeah, by the way, such and such had a stroke or a heart attack. 40-some years old. And we're still getting information out here on the importance of taking the COVID shot, when they knew about natural immunity at the very beginning. I wonder how many millions of dollars Anthony Fauci and the other people, I'm not even talking about the pharmaceutical company, they made billions. And all these medical professionals who sat here and tried to peddle this farce known as Rona. Nobody goes to jail. And what did he say during the clip? Oh, it's just, we got to get more people because, it's Republicans and they don't want to be told what to do. I don't even rock with Republicans. But damn it, they were right in this case. Stop peddling nonsense. Because someday there might actually be something that comes along and people are not going to rock with it. And then there's going to be a real problem. I remember telling people, I said, look, they've got one shot at this. People aren't going to do lockdowns again. This ain't China, if you've ever seen, that China's still under COVID lockdown. And heaven forbid you talk out of line, they'd send you to a concentration camp. Check the videos. They're on IG. Check YouTube. They're out there. The information's out there. The videos are out there. The world was put on lockdown for no fucking reason other than economics. And a small percentage of people made a ton of money and everybody else was locked in their homes. I hope people learned from this. People have gotten a little too fat mentally. I know I'm not supposed to say fat, but fat mentally. You have a bureaucrat who, from my understanding, they have labs everywhere working on all kinds of bio. These aren't just from the movies like the Jason Bourne film and everything like that. They're out there doing this, making money, and ruining your life. How many small businesses went out of are gone now? I didn't see the big businesses lose money. All the small mom and pop shops, gone, not coming back. 170,000 last I heard. Some cases, legacy mom and pop shops, gone. Are we gonna sit here and pretend like this wasn't all a ploy to get the average everyday person? Meanwhile, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and the rest of them are out here caking. Not saying they can't make money, but leave people alone. If you go and look up some jobs, especially in like some major cities like New York City, they're still telling you need to be fully vaccinated. For what? If you want to work in a building or something along those lines, you want to get in the building, you have to show a vax card. What the what are we doing? The discrimination that was allowed. And look, there's always a little bit of discrimination in the world. People are like, oh, well, that shouldn't be wrong. If you've ever been to a nightclub and you don't look the right way, they have the right to tell you can't get in. That's a form of discrimination. But we deal with it because there's other places to go to. Whatever, it's a club. But when you're talking about employment, somebody having to pay their bills and they have the qualifications, but because they don't have some stupid ass card that was written on. I know they're trying to do the digital pass like they have in China. If you look up some videos in China, if you don't show your car, if you don't show the digital pass on your phone, you can't get onto the train, you can't get into Costco, you can't buy food. I knew a woman who was in I believe she's in Ecuador or Argentina, one of those places, I can't remember, who went and got vaccinated. She didn't want to, but had to because she has a son and they wouldn't let her into the supermarket. That is an essential thing. Going to a club is not. That is an essential thing you need to do to live your life. Nobody's gone to jail over it, though. And then we're supposed to sit here as the average everyday citizen and believe in the government. It's time to take back what is yours. You built this country. Your ancestors built this country. You don't work for those people in Washington, D.C. You don't work for the pharmaceuticals. They work for you. I'm talking about not the pharmaceuticals. I'm talking about the government. It's time for y'all to take it back, man. You pay for that. It's enough of this nonsense. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. You know where to find it. Take care.
Taking a shot on a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time.
Well, I heard that it doesn't cure it, and it doesn't stop you from getting it.
No.
So
on the very, very, very rare chance that you do get it, even if you're vaccinated, you don't even feel sick. It's like you don't even know you got infected.